they did. And that caused the children, the two boys particularly, huge problems. The youngest one was in nursery at the time. She put him into a nursery unknown to me. And he was woken up from sleep by the social worker. This is all in notes from the centre. And he was asked 3 times, and he'd hardly seen me in the previous 2 months, bear in mind, because of the court orders. He was asked 3 times, did you want to be with mummy or daddy during the holidays? And at the 3rd time, he said mummy instead of daddy. And on the basis of that, the judge or the social worker said he shouldn't be going to Ireland. And the older child was under horrendous pressure. I'm not going to go into detail. Such pressure that he started self-harming and worse. And when I found out about this, when I came back from the week holiday, social services declared the case closed because the perpetrator of the violence had been removed from the family home. So that was when I decided, okay, it's now maturity time, Vincent. You only got one function in life now, kick the malpractice out of these individuals. So that's what started me. I never was serious about anything in my life. I had no concept of being serious. I was always taken the proverbial. Life to me was a joke. So the joke changed. And here we are, 14 years later. It's a long journey.
It is a long journey. One of the things that you talk about in your book is the systematic problems in family court.
Oh, yeah.
And as we've just talked about, some of this stuff, if you're not in it, you'd swear to God that there was somebody with candid camera about to jump out the bushes and go, ha, gotcha.
Well, I've long believed, I was a Mackenzie friend for many years. I stopped it in 2019 to preserve the last 1% of my sanity. I've long believed that the major protection factor in the system is that it's so bad, people outside the system wouldn't believe you if you told them, because they don't want to believe you. Yeah. I mean, I'm also chair of the Central London branch of Families Need Fathers, the shared parenting charity in North London. We have meetings every week. And I've been attending these meetings since 2007, chair since 2011. And the biggest problem is, as you know quite well, 80% of newcomers simply cannot believe this system exists. They think they're the only one it's ever happened to, that there's MPs and everybody else going to be asking questions in Houses of Parliament. They keep talking about their rights, not realising they have a zero.
Right.
And if you don't understand the word zero or the word none, you're not going to go very far. Now, technically, neither has the mother, but of course, it's the vast pyramid structure. The gateway to the family courts determines the outcome 95% of the time. And the social services, the domestic violence agencies, one by Women's Aid and Refuge. I mean, I had rang them for help myself and was signposted to a solicitor, and that I was told to get a solicitor. They call that signposting help. Well, that's very good, but the problem is I had no money. So it's like telling a homeless person to book into the Safari. Yes. And the amount of profiteering ideologically, number one, and financially, number two, from children's misery is unlimited. And nobody has, in my opinion, brought this properly to the attention of the public. And I believe that's why I knew I had to get validity. I had to get the certification of bad practice, shall we say, because I'm a motorbike mechanic, they say. So if a bike doesn't work, what's wrong? Has it got fuel? Has it got spark? All the basics. Has it got compression? So if it has A, B, C, and D, then it should work. So I knew that I needed to get the Ombudsman's investigations, because before I joined Families Need Fathers, a good friend of mine had got me a list of, because he gave me his son's computer and he did a lot of time helping me. I mean, the amount of help I had is just unbelievable, including financial help, which is pivotal, because without that you are. And I rang up 8 or 9 of these fathers groups, as I was led to believe. And all there was an angry man with a laptop in a bedsit complaining. Well, I could complain myself. I wasn't interested in complaining. I was interested in doing something.
Right.
Number one, be involved with my own children, and two, then sort out this system bigger. But the inertia in modern men, and particularly those who have been smashed in this system, which is so many, the only comparison I can make, as I've written in the book, is in tribal associations, when the man was done a wrongdoing, was banished from the tribe, they often died within a couple of weeks because the desire to will was gone. The whole reason for existing was removed. Their history was being erased because one person now was in control of it. And that's the only thing I can compare so many modern men to. I'm definitely no men's rights advocates, because they hate me more than anyone, because all I'm doing is telling them they're useless and they're embarrassment. So I'm never going to be popular.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I think even you in your book, you admitted that some people might think that with everything that you've been through, that that you didn't like your ex-wife, you hated your ex-wife, and you hated women, but none of that is true. But go on.
Well, the biggest supporters I've had is from women. My mother, my sisters, female friends, the wives of good male friends. My ex-wife can't help the way she is. I can't say what it is, obviously, because I'm
Of
subject to
course.
legal action and all the rest. She can't. So this is the system that's there. I had 9 years of looking after children as a primary carer. I never remotely in my life expected to have, and I absolutely loved it. I've got three children. Okay, I'm not seeing two of them, but I've got three children I would may never have had only for her. I was a primary carer rearing three children thanks to her. So why should I hate her? Yeah, that's like hating the rain. All you're doing is hating. I've no belief whatsoever in these men who attack females, or particularly those who attack all feminists, because they can't understand it's only a small section of the radical feminists that have so much control here.
Yeah.
And not alone that, it is them that are at fault, not the feminists, not the women. It's them for doing nothing, indulging in conspiracy theories. All right, it's either the Frankfurt School or the Brandenburg or the G7. I mean, they sound like miniature acolytes of David Icke. And they believe this nonsense because they want to believe it. And what I love when they tell me is, but you don't understand. Yeah, from one man and his bedsitter that hasn't even got a dog. you know, if you understood, oh yeah, right. And but what my real anger is not against ordinary working men, because they're just too desperate trying to earn a living. There's no good blame on them. It's the middle class intellectuals who turn a blind eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lecturers, the social workers, the policymakers, the local government chiefs, and all the rest. They're the ones I have anger against,
Yeah.
because they are not just not protecting children. They are putting their ego and their desire for cheap, oh, I'm new age, I defend women. How patronizing that is, that these double-chinned, pot-bellied, weak individuals are saying, I defend women. It's cartoonish. No scriptwriter, in my opinion, could ever do this system justice.
It's very true. Very true. Speaking of script, almost like a cast of people, if you will, in the
Yeah,
kind of comedy farce that is
absolute.
Family Court. But you talk about the judges. You thought, because in your case, they were judges. They were quite nice. They
Oh,
tried.
the judges in
Well,
my case, they tried hard. I look upon the family court as being this way. It's a broken system now. It was very badly broken then, but it's worse broken now, COVID and all the rest. But the judges did try to get to the bottom of it in a very bad system. I didn't see that at the time in the beginning, but I did see it as time went on. I've had 43 hearings in my own case. 5 of them represented on borrowed money, and the rest is a litigant in person. The judges do try, but they have such a morass around them. And with the 98% failure to enforce their own orders. So the two principal failings in the courts, as I see it, are number one, they work hand in glove, particularly Kafka's, they work hand in glove with, that's Children and Family Court Advisory Support Service. They work hand in glove with agencies that discriminate on grounds of service for the introduction to the gateway. They control the injunctions and all the rest. And then they don't enforce their own orders. So how they can say that the welfare of the child is paramount with these two overriding factors, it's a complete mockery of the term. I mean, that's the equivalent of you had in Vietnam, where the lieutenant responsible for the massacre of a village, My Lai, said, to save the village, we had to destroy it.
I love that quote.
It's that level of double think. But because it's not subject to any scrutiny, because they're in secret, no male politician is prepared to investigate. The female politicians only claim it's not doing bad enough because it's allowing men seeing their children, as we see regularly from the attempts in the House of Parliament, Courts of Control, Practice Direction 12J, and all the rest.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many female politicians now, particularly in the Labour Party, who believe that once there's allegations of domestic abuse, it's fact. It should
Yes.
not be tested.
Yeah.
Not alone that, the litigant shouldn't be allowed to cross-examine the accuser because she's feeling further oppressed. I mean, the only comparison I can make here is some sections of very ultra-conservative Muslim faith believe that the reason why women can't drive cars and can't be allowed out to give evidence in court without a man is because they're incomplete in faith and logic. Now, I consider that a nonsense, I might add. But you have almost the same mindset in the family court and associated pyramid structure, that women aren't capable of doing anything unless there's a system protecting them. It brings women back to pre-Victorian levels.
Totally.
I can imagine you being one of these vulnerable women.
Can you imagine that?
You know, oh, I shall faint. Yeah.
Smelling salts.
Smelling salts.
Yeah. So you do a couple of chapters in your book dedicated to local authority and Kafkas.
Yeah.
And you've had the pleasure of getting to know both of those
very well.
Very well.
Very well. I love them.
And I'm sure they feel just as positive about you too.
Well, they change personnel so often.
Yes.
I mean, I'm unknown within Brent at the moment because they don't know what I've done in the past. Because the personnel just changes. A few radical ideologues control the system. You have a few totemic men in charge of the system. You mean, you might as well have a poll with idiot on top of it and say idiot is the MD. That's what I see so often. And they change every few years. So there's no consistency whatsoever. I mean, for example, in February of 2021, that's this year, I attempted to get all subject access requests, all the information Brent has about me. Before the book was launched, I decided I'd better find out what Brent has about me in total. Now consider this. They sent me on the subject access request, I think it's 658 pages in egress, in 5 folders.
Oh my God.
All right. Took me a while to negotiate that. About 15% of it is redacted. What they have redacted is the names of the children I was at that stage looking after, the name of the woman I was living with at that time, and the address of the house I was living in. But they've redacted that repeatedly. Okay. So I'm not supposed to know the name of my children, the name of my wife, or the then wife, and the address I was living at. So that's one thing. What's the bigger joke? Nothing came from, even though Women's Aid with an E, spelled with the next E, and BDVAP are referenced every 2 or 3 pages. None of their evidence is presented. Now, I know there's 11 pages, but maybe more, that the BDVAP stroke Women's Aid has about me, which involves the phantom dog and other similar things. That's not the maddest. I was also accused of going into border towns in the 80s in Ireland with a firearm over my shoulder, often to shoot dogs. Because I grew up in the border. Now, anyone who grew up in that area, lived in that area at that time with the amount of military all around, can you imagine walking up to a border town with a firearm and expecting to live?
Oh my God.
You wouldn't be able to count the holes that'd be in you. But this is how it was presented as, and nobody questioned it.
No.
They have not given me that evidence to this day. And under pressure, they have said, Brent Council have said in an email to me that they are not responsible for the agency they have commissioned. And the police, they say the police are responsible. The police have told me in an email, nothing to do with us. And it is nothing to do with the police. It's Brent who brought them in. It's Brent who pays them. It's Brent who gives them extra bonus payments on a regular basis. But Brent is not in control of them. So you have complete farcical situation here. And that's in Brent alone. Now, I don't know what other boroughs are like, but I wouldn't say there's that much difference.
No, definitely not. One of the questions that you and I both get asked a lot is the system biased? And before we roll our eyes, just want to talk a little bit about that, because a lot of the gateway, as you talk about it, is we talk about you have to do mediation before you can put an application into court.
Yeah.
And a lot of women can actually bypass that and get through to a solicitor straight away. So in your own words, because they hear me bang on about it ad nauseum, talk us through that process.